Hello, welcome to Church at Home with Rachel for Monday, the 26th of May. Today, I'd like to share with you a devotion taken from our daily bread, but this is from June 25th of 2022, so it's almost 3 years old. And I really enjoy these daily breads, and I've got little stickies in them for places where I thought that would be an idea for a church at home. So this is one I thought of almost 3 years ago. 2 years, 11 months ago, actually. It starts off with Psalm 143, verse 11. Lord, preserve my life. In your righteousness, bring me out of trouble. And this devotion is called Dark Moments, Deep Prayers. I had a dark moment. Those 5 words capture the internal agony of a popular female celebrity during the COVID-19 pandemic. Adjusting to a new normal was part of her challenge, and in her turmoil, she acknowledged that she wrestled with thoughts of suicide. Pulling out of the downward spiral included sharing her struggle with a friend who cared. We are all susceptible to tumultuous hours, days, and seasons. Valleys and hard places aren't foreign, but getting out of such places can be challenging. And seeking the assistance of mental health professionals is sometimes needed. In Psalm 143, we hear and are instructed by David's prayer during one of the dark times of his life. The exact situation is unknown, but his prayers to God are honest and hope-filled. The enemy pursues me. He crushes me to the ground. He makes me dwell in the darkness like those long dead. So my spirit grows faint within me. My heart within me is dismayed. Verses 3 and 4. For believers in Jesus, it's not enough to acknowledge what's going on within us to ourselves, to our friends, or to medical specialists. We must earnestly come to God, thoughts and all, with prayers that include the earnest petitions found in Psalm 143, verses 7 to 10. Our dark moments can also be times of deep prayers, seeking the light and life only God can bring. The question that is asked the questions that are asked are in the midst of your darkest moments, how do you typically respond? Why is it difficult to be honest about your struggles? And this is the prayer. Father, please renew my strength and hope in you. When dark moments invade my life internally or externally and bring me low, help me to come to you in prayer. That is a powerful thing. That is a very powerful thing. And it's something that I can definitely relate to. I have had for myself and in my life, in my ministry, many moments of seasons of deep darkness. I have had Lenten seasons, and if you've been around on Church at Home with Rachel for a while, you know I've talked about this before. I've had seasons in my life that felt very much like I was wandering in the wilderness and wondering where God was, and that recognition that God exists, and I know that, and intellectually I know that I can turn to God, but somehow there was a part of me that really felt either sometimes resistant to turning to God for some reason, or somehow felt like I was blind. Like I know intellectually that I can reach out to God in this darkness, and yet the blinders were too hard to take off. My heart was having difficult seeing, if that makes sense. Especially in COVID, now that we're a few years past COVID, we learned skills, we learned things about ourselves in that lengthy period of time when the world sort of turned itself upside down. And I wonder if maybe part of those dark times, the part of those times in our lives when it's so difficult to have faith and hope, to see light, to feel the lightness of being that we know from other times in our lives really does exist. I wonder if we could look back and say that, not that I'm suggesting that COVID was meant that God did this so that we would be ready for something else. Not at all. I don't think that God punishes us with plagues such as COVID for other plagues such as sort of the world that we live in right now. I think it's more about when we find ourselves in those plagues, that we are able to recognize that God is there with us, and that no matter how bad the situation is or how good, there are things that we can learn. And thinking about all of the things we learned about COVID, the things we learned about mental health, the things we learned about friendship and how important it is, the importance of community. We have a colleague of mine referred to his son being a COVID baby, meaning that his son missed out on a couple of years of what we would normally have, children would normally have interactions with other kids, that there's going to be a whole COVID generation of kids who missed out on significant periods of information receiving, experiential information receiving, because COVID happened, whether it's babies who weren't then hanging out and having play dates with other babies and toddlers, or students who, rather than going off to school for the first time or high school or any of those things, had to be on their own. That there's a significant band of time when everything turned itself upside down, and they're missing the skills that they would have normally received or learned during that time. And so I wonder, in this difficult time that we're facing right now in the world, if there aren't some things that we've all learned from COVID that we could apply here. The things around community, even those of us like myself who are highly introverted, and did not find COVID to be a very isolating time, because it was in some ways very much playing into my strengths. Although even I noticed I needed people to talk to, and I needed those interactions, and was really eager to talk to the checkout person at the store for my groceries and things like that. But recognizing, what did we learn? What did we learn about mental health? What did we learn about, or what did we unlearn? Did we learn that there's no stigma in asking for help? Did we learn that it's okay to not be okay? Because it's so important to hang on to. But then on the flip side of that is, how do we then take those lessons and apply them here? Like David, how do we take the honesty that we probably, lots of us, felt we had with God during COVID, to say, damn you for this disease. Why do we have to go through this? Why do people have to die from this? Why do people have to be so stubbornly resistant to the very things that could help us? All of those things. Because we're here again, where it's not COVID, but we're back in a world that's turned itself upside down, and we don't know how to deal with it, the same way as we didn't know how to deal with the shutdown with COVID. All of our regularly planned ways of dealing with things stopped working. And right now, the way we've always dealt with things isn't working, because the world is different. So how do we deal with that? And I think a really big part of that is, like David, like the actress who reached out to someone and said, I need help. We need to reach out to God and say, we need your help. We can use the gifts, the lessons, the experiences that God allowed us to live through and work with in COVID times. We can use those and adapt them to these days and this period of our lives in this world. But we also need to be able to say to God, this is how I'm feeling, and know that we can. David was a real son of a gun. He really did a lot of things wrong. But God still chose him. God still chose him to be a king, to do incredible, wonderful things. But God also allowed him to go through the difficult times. But God also, at the same time, God also had a relationship with David, where David could be a son of a gun. I'm cleaning up my language here because it's not what I'm really thinking. He could be that SO something and still be able to talk to God, even when he was being that son of a gun. And because he had that relationship, that when things were bad, he could still turn to God, he recognized that when things were good, he could also turn to God. We need to develop that relationship with God that says we can lament and we can celebrate, we can curse and we can bless. All of these things are things we can do with God. If you are in a season of depression or if you need help, if there are things you need prayers for, please let me know and I will pray for you. But if there are things that you need help for with your mental health, please do not hesitate to reach out and ask. There are hotlines. I won't give numbers because I don't know what they are in the States. There are numbers you can call. Reach out to a local church or synagogue or a mosque and ask for help. But there are people that you can talk to, and there are places you can go where you can receive help. And like I said, you can reach out to me here and ask for prayer, and I will absolutely do that. God bless you. Have a wonderful day, a gentle day, and I will see you again tomorrow for Church at Home with Rachael. Bye, everybody.